Hello, hello. You're listening to For the Girls, Gays, and Days, the podcast where two friends process their emotions concerning pop culture of note to the acronymed community. From film to television, music, and more, we're here to tell you what caught our queer eyes this year. I'm Colt, he, him.
I'm Alex, they, them. Welcome to it.
Welcome! Hi there. This is Colt just jumping in with a quick caveat to say, in case you missed it, this is in fact part 2 of a much longer discussion we had on New Year's Eve, covering our favorite films and TV series of 2023. Part 1 consisted of our TV picks, and if you've listened to it already, thank you so much. And if you haven't, you might want to consider giving it a listen after you're done here. But for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And we're back.
Yes.
And category is film. And we'll be talking about our top 3 favorite films of 2023. As with TV, I will be giving a brief moment to honorable mentions. For me, those consist of Asteroid City, directed by Wes Anderson. I think it is a film that a lot of people either love or hate. It is very much Marmite the movie. A lot of people do not get it and refuse to get it and come out of it and go, that was terrible. I really liked it on a first watch. I've come to love it on subsequent watches. I've watched it 4 times now. As early as earlier today, I watched it again for the 4th time. And I really love it. I think it's got that sort of like sad existential thing that I tend to really attach to. It's got that whole thing of like, I don't understand the play. That's fine. Just do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I connect to it, and a lot of people don't, and that's fine. You don't have to. But I really loved it this year. Another film that also has similar sort of like existential sadness, bittersweetness to it is All of Us Strangers, which I've spoken about on the pod before. I saw it at the London Film Festival. It's this really sweet, but also really sad sort of like gay love story / therapy session with Andrew Scott and
Paul Mescal.
Paul Mescal.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic film. It has not released in theaters in the UK yet. I think it's just sort of got its US release now.
Limited. Emphasis on limited.
Yeah.
It's like 2 screens. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not out in the UK until like February. But like, it's still going to be on my 2023 list because I saw it in 2023. Yeah. Love that film. And then, of course, I have just not making it onto my list. I have Bottoms, which I have a feeling you will be talking about in more depth, so I will say nothing more on the film at all. But yeah, I did love it very much, but I think there was some other films I loved just a little bit more.
Just pimped it a little bit. That makes sense.
So what's on your honorable mentions?
Here's the thing with my honorable mentions of movies list. It's not going to be about the movies. I really, 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 really want to talk about this thing that happens in America where you only get the huge blockbusters in smaller towns or mid-sized towns, and then every now and then the art house theater by some luck puts out one of the movies that makes it to the small theaters. And then everything goes to streaming. But here's my issue with the streaming of the movies. I don't get to keep them forever. And it makes me very upset.
Physical media needs to make a comeback in 2024, I'm just saying.
I would buy all the DVDs. But there's one movie that made it to my list of honorable mentions. So it's called The Broker.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to
spoken about it on the pod before. Yeah.
Yeah. I have mentioned it before. I believe I mentioned it in 2023, but it actually came out in 2022. It's the opposite of what I spoke about a second ago because it is an art house movie, a smaller movie that made it to our art house theater. And I just want to say, can we just get DVDs back? I would buy a DVD. I don't want to pay $2 to Apple to watch a movie. And the movie gets deleted in like how long.
It's shit the way they do that.
And then the third part of my honorable mention is to anybody who has a library card in the United States of America or knows or has a friend with a library card in the United States of America. You can watch almost every single nominated movie for an Oscar, for a Palme d'Or, for all these things from your local library who have the actual physical media, or on a service called Canopy. And you get a certain number of tickets a month, and you can watch any art house movie there. I watched After Sun there because I didn't get to see it in cinemas. It's a great service. So those are my 3 things that I wanted to shout out in my honorable mentions.
Nice. So moving off of honorable mentions, moving on to the actual main course, the main meal, top 3 of the year. I have at my number 3, Rye Lane. Directed by Rain Allen Miller, it tells the story of 2 20-somethings, both reeling from bad breakups, who connect over the course of an eventful day in South London, helping each other deal with their nightmare exes and potentially restoring their faith in romance. I love this film so much. I saw this film 3 times in cinemas. In the space of a month, like while it was in cinemas, I saw it like 3 times in cinemas. And I very much, I've spoken about it on the pod before. So if you want to hear my full in-depth thoughts on this film, go back and look for that episode. But I just thought this was such a joyful film. I'm a little bit biased because it is set in sort of like my home turf. It is set in South London, which is where I live. And I think it had a lot of connections to that. And it was just lovely to see that up on screen. I was able to watch it in one of the cinemas that is featured in the film itself. I think it is such a lovely, lovely film. It is so funny. It does some really creative things with sort of narrative devices. And this is essentially like 2 people hanging out and telling each other stories. But the way it's able to do really creative visual things with that storytelling, I thought was so special. I think some people don't love this sort of fisheye of it all. It's very fisheye heavy. In terms of like how it's visually shot, it is very much a lot in the wide angle lens, which doesn't bother me at all. But I showed just the trailer to a friend of mine who's very into like photography and cinematography, and she was like, "Oh, that made me dizzy," like the fisheye lens, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't notice." And then I watched it sort of after she sort of pointed that out to me, and I was like, "Oh yeah, the entire film is basically in like a 0.5 aspect ratio," which didn't affect me at all, but some people didn't love that. But I just love the film. It's so colorful. It's so vibrant. I think it is a very strong entry from Rain Allen Miller as sort of like her first directorial feature debut. Yeah, I loved it.
I have to say I loved it too. I watched it after you recommended it on the pod, and it's in at my number 3 as well.
Yeah.
Yes, it's one of 2 female-directed films on my list.
Not to spoil my list, but all 3 of mine may in fact be directed by women. I'm just saying.
Oh, shit. But I really loved it. And you know what I loved most about it is it takes that sort of Jane Austen quote of zooming into the stories of like 5 people and telling it. And that's what I've always loved in movies. I'm not a big rom-com guy. I obviously love When Harry Met Sally and like the classics. You've Got Mail, Sleepless in Seattle. Basically Nora Ephron's whole catalog. Because I love Nora Ephron, but I'm not really a rom-com guy because they always kind of feel like they're alienating me. But somehow in these 2 characters, I saw a lot of myself and I enjoyed them. I enjoyed the colors. I enjoyed the soundtrack. I think I listened to Stormzy. I'm still listening to that Stormzy song that plays when she's riding the scooter. I love it. It's a brilliant film. Watch it if you can. It is currently on Canopy, I believe.
And also Disney Plus and Hulu in the States, Disney Plus in the UK. I don't know, like with mergers and acquisitions and stuff, there may be one platform now in the UK, the US as well, but they've always been one platform in the UK. But it's on Disney Plus.
Sweet.
Yeah. So moving on to, that's both of our number 3. So I will move on to my number 2 then. And I have my number 2, one half of the theater going spectacular of the summer. I have Barbie.
Yeah.
of Barbenheimer fame, directed by Greta Gerwig. Obviously, tells the story of Barbie and Ken having the time of their lives in the colorful, seemingly perfect Barbie land that's all sort of thrown out of whack when the person playing with Barbie in the real world starts to infect Barbie with some of her real life anxieties and sets off this whole adventure into the real world and back to Barbie land. And it's a fantastic film. It's so, I won't say it's a perfect film. For me, it was a 9 out of 10. I think there are elements of the film that don't completely work for me. I think there's some pacing issues, especially once they get back into Barbie land, and some of the stuff with the whole Kendom of it all drags a bit for me on some repeated viewings. But I think it's a film that I so very deeply loved on a first watch, and on subsequent watches, I've watched it multiple times. I think it is a film that I think was very sort of restorative for my inner child. I think a lot of sort of inner child work and therapy is sort of like, can you see your inner child, like speak to your inner child, all of that. And I think when I watched this film, when I came out of it, I could very clearly sort of see tween or teen Colt watching this film and being fucking obsessed with it. So yeah, I loved it. And I think that Greta Gerwig is such a phenomenal talent as a director and as a writer, and the way she's able to tell stories creatively and weave in so much heart and emotion and depth into characters that shouldn't necessarily have it. I remember sort of with Little Women, the way she retold that story and adapted that story was so special, and the way she was able to sort of weave new depth into characters that were like Amy, that I think most people fucking hated on the page and in previous adaptations, and being able to sow so much depth into that. And I think being able to take what is essentially a toy commercial and turning it into a phenomenal film with so much heart and so much commentary on what it is to be human, what it is to be a woman, and what it is to exist in the patriarchy. And I think, as I've said on the podcast before, because of course we've discussed this film before on the podcast, men wholly misunderstood her commentary on the patriarchy and how it does in fact harm everyone. Obviously women most of all, but it does harm everyone. I think that is very much on display in this film, and I think it is going to get nominated for a whole slew of awards. I think it's going to win a bunch. I think Mr. William Eyelash is gonna win another Oscar.
She already
for her song.
It's done.
What Was I Made For, which it absolutely should. It deserves it. I see some pundits going, really, is that? I'm like, yes. That's the song. It has so much heart. It connects to the film. It's included in the film. It's so good that they even incorporated it throughout the score of the film, because that's how deeply it affected Greta and Mark Ronson doing the music and all of that. Like, it is a phenomenal song. It is a phenomenal film. Yeah. It had its moment. I think people don't like to talk about this, but I don't think Oppenheimer would have been as big as it's been this year if it were not for Barbie. I do not think that Oppenheimer would be the front runner to win Best Picture and to win Nolan his elusive Oscar that everyone thinks he deserves. I don't think they'd be in that conversation if it were not for the Barbenheimer of it all, and if it were not for Barbie. I don't think it would be as big as it is. So
the best marketing strategy ever was not to have a marketing strategy for that film.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so funny how they said to Greta Gerwig to change her release date. She said, "Don't go well." And I mean, it rescued the American economy. The whole reason we're not in a official recession is because of Taylor Swift and Barbie.
Yeah.
So obviously I watched it and I loved it, and obviously it almost made my list, but I'll put it on my list for next year because I watched it. I'm kidding. It is. I loved it. I watched it in cinemas. I loved every minute. The cinema was packed. And hearing that song on I when I treat myself to the cinema, I go to a fancy cinema with a beautiful sound system and everything. And just to hear that song on that sound system is so great. And people will always call Billie Eilish a whisper singer. I think somebody said to
Stay
me,
mad. She does it and she does it well. Like
somebody said to me last month, not only is she a whisper singer, but a lot of people don't realize how many people make Billie Eilish happen. She doesn't just sit at a keyboard and become the most powerful artist of the year or whatever. And I'm just like, all right, okay. Should we talk about that with Billy Joel? Do you want to have that conversation about any male singer? Or is it just for the women singers that you're saving that kind of undermining conversation for? I think it was brilliant. And I think one of the most frustrating things to come out of sort of the wake of Barbie and the come down of it and people talking about how it wasn't necessarily a perfect film and all these things and da-da-da-da-da. The worst part about it to me have people been going on a personal rant against Greta Gerwig for not being enough of a feminist in her personal life. And I just want to say to those people, read a book, read any book. Yeah. Also, media literacy, RIP. It died before it even had a chance to reach you.
And also, there's something just so tired about the people who will do that tweet that pisses me off of like, has enough time passed that we can admit this wasn't good? People who tweet that, I'm like, no, if you didn't think it was good, say that with your full chest when it comes out. Yeah. Whenever the discourse is happening, say that. Don't like, I like the film, and then like 6 months later be like, has enough time for us? Can I shit on this film now? Like, no, say it with your full chest. If you don't like it, that's fine. But be upfront about it. Don't like wait 6 months to be like, actually, can we talk about this now? Like, no, we can't talk about it. Fuck off, Jeff.
Yeah, fuck off, Jeff. And you know what really acts me off too? People who are like, no, I don't think, and I guess I might be doing it. No, I'm not actually doing it on my list. But people who are like, oh, I don't know if Barbie was the most talked about film this year. It was actually Butter on Toast that me and two guys watched in a closet once. Oh, fuck off and die. Just go fucking, just, Jesus. Those are also the
and there is something like, because I've obviously gotten more into the sort of awards prognostication of it all. Yeah. And I think awards prognosticators are like, no, Barbie can't be that film. Like it's not gonna win the awards. And like, fair, it might not. But it's the dismissive nature of the things that film did, and that film did well. Like, for instance, it got put on the shortlist for best sound. And everyone's like, really? That film on sound? I'm like, did you watch the film, Mary? The sound design and the sound editing is on point. It is so good. Yeah. So yeah, it deserves that award. There are so many films that do deserve these awards that don't even get considered. And this is getting considered. Yeah, maybe it is getting considered because it was part of the phenomenon that was Barbenheimer. Yeah. But it also deserves it. So,
And you know what? The movies that do the most popular sound design thing at the minute, where it's like this, and everybody's whispering. And then there's the loudest fucking chaotic scene of all time. And then we go back to the whispering.
No one questions Oppenheimer getting that sound shortlist. But I'm like, I can't hear the dialogue.
You can say it out loud.
I was hear the dialogue.
I wasn't going to say it.
Yeah, but its sound effects are impressive. But you also can't hear the dialogue. So that is a fundamental failure. I don't care how many times that Nolan says that was a purposeful choice. That's a bad choice, Christopher.
Yes, Christopher, it is a bad choice. And I know so many men who see themselves as heterosexual who would like to give Christopher Nolan the biggest, sloppiest blowjob of all time, and hate the fact that we have anything negative to say about his incredible work. I mean, you've been blowing him my whole life. So I get it. I get what you want to do. I get why he's your favorite filmmaker of all time. I understand. But even the best filmmaker of all time can make choices that make a movie hard to watch, girl. And frustrating to watch. So any penny, but let's not
dwell on the negative.
No, let's not do
It's so easy to do.
We're positive people.
We're positive people. Yeah.
We're not haters.
No, we're here to uplift. So, Alex, uplift us with your number 2 on your list.
I'm going to lift you all the way to the bottom, baby. At number 2, we've got Bottoms. I love it. I love her. I've spoken about it at length before.
Yeah.
So I feel like everybody knows the plot, but I'm going to tell you the plot. You have a whole bunch of gay losers. We have a great amount of crushes.
The ugly, untalented gays, as they are. I'm quoting from the film.
But it was me in high school. I didn't even know I was gay. It made it worse. But so the ugly, untalented gays, one of which is played by Ayo Edebiri, start a fight club. And this is the fallout of the fight club. And who cares what happens in the movie? It's just funny. You know what? And it's so not funny. It's not funny in like a dude bro way. It's funny in a feminine way that is hilarious. Which is I've never really seen that much in a teen movie.
It's been compared a lot to Booksmart, I will say. I don't completely, agree with comparisons because I think they're trying to achieve very different things. But yeah.
I loved Booksmart, mostly because I'm a big Beanie Feldstein fan. And I think on the previous episode of the pod where I spoke about this, and the director, Emma Slagman, I think is how you say it. I think my biggest shout out was, I have no idea, for Nicholas Galitzine.
Oh, he's fabulous.
So funny.
I think when we talked about this, I hadn't seen the film yet.
Yeah.
And now that I have seen it, and I as I said, it barely didn't make it on this list. It was my number 4 on the list. But he's so he's having the best time of his life in this film. He is doing the absolute most, and it is so good. And again, we're talking about it being like a feminine edge, but talking about the man in the film. But the leads are also just so funny. Like Ayo's ad-libs.
Oh my God. I'm going to die. I'm going to marry a man.
I'm going to marry the deacon. The gay deacon. And it's just so funny.
It's so funny. And I have no idea how Rachel Sennott didn't absolutely break in every single fucking scene. Kaya Gerber made me laugh because she had one thing to do and she did it, and it was look vapid. Ruby Cruz was really funny. Nobody missed to me. Just so good.
Honestly, Ruby Cruz is smash. Just saying.
I think we spoke about it. It was the most unbelievable piece of dialogue in the whole movie that she can't get laid in high school. Okay, sure.
She is the Gen Z Shane from the album. Come on.
She's getting laid in high school, guys. Come on now. But it was just so funny and oh my God, it made me feel good to watch it, even though it had, I think, 25 murders or something.
Oh yeah, it's violent as hell. It is violent as hell. Yeah.
The murders were funny. What do you want? Oh my God.
One of my favorite sort of inside things of this is very much it's related to the film, but it's not any sort of comment on the film. It is the smallest moment in the film. I watched this with my housemate.
Yeah.
And her boyfriend. And there's this one scene with the old babysitter.
Yeah.
Where Ayo Edebiri's character goes and speaks to the old babysitter, and the old babysitter is basically telling her that murder's gonna go down. Shit's gonna get real. But basically, throughout the entirety of the scene, there's this mug sitting on the table.
Yeah.
That my housemate was so obsessed with and found it so hysterical. Her boyfriend went on the internet and immediately bought it for her. And I'm gonna go fetch that mug real quick, so bear with me. Bear with.
Okay. Get it. That was a quick one.
Yeah. So this is the mug for those people watching the pod and not listening to it. It is the meerkat mug. She found it so hilarious and was so enamored by it that her boyfriend immediately went on the internet, found it, and purchased it for her. So now every day in the flat, she drinks her tea out of this mug, and it makes me laugh and it makes me think of Bottoms.
That is a great boyfriend as well, though. That's hilarious.
Yeah, he's lovely.
Oh my god. I love that movie for little things like that. There's so many layers. Like there's a boy kept in a cage at the back of every scene that nobody ever talks about.
No. And so he gets unleashed on one of the characters to beat the shit out of it. Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's great. It is a great film.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh, okay, Colty. Tell me the
Let's
truth.
move things right along, and I'm going to get to my number one.
Who is she? Who would play her?
Past Lives.
Ah, yes.
Directed by Celine Song. This is a film that I saw at the Sundance Film Festival screening that happened in London. It is a film I came out of and was just like, I have no notes. That was a perfect film. I would not change a single thing about it. And with every other film release that happened since then, because that was very early on in the year, I'm like, it has to be at number one. Like it, and I've spoken about it on the pod before. It tells a story basically of like two people who are deeply connected childhood friends who are separated when one of them immigrates to Canada and then to the US from Korea. They reconnect with each other about 10 years later and pick up their relationship online, only to then break contact again, and they don't see each other for another 10, 12 years. And they meet up in person at this point. The woman has gone on to get married, and it's this sort of, it's the story that's so much about like connection and about who you are to each other and all of that stuff. And I've spoken about this at length in the pod, so I won't get too much into it. But it is just a film that it made me weep like 4 or 5 times, which, you know, is not difficult for me in a film. I'm not going to lie. But I genuinely couldn't tell you what was making me so emotional in a lot of the scenes, but it just was so heartfelt in the direction and in the writing, and it just moved me so much. And in the performances, it felt so real and so lived in. And it makes me so sad that it's not a serious awards contender. Like people are, like when it came out, all the critics were like, this is one of the best films of the year. And it's showing up on everyone's sort of 10 films of the year list, but it's almost on the bubble to like get into Best Picture and to get in some of these awards races. And I'm just like, it should be a no-brainer. It is such a beautiful, quiet, simple film directed by Celine Song. It's her first feature, and it just, yeah. As I said, like all of my top 3, in fact, my top 4 out of my sort of 10 list were directed by women. I also have another woman coming in just at number 10. So like half of my 10 favorite films of the year were directed by women. And I think if at least 2 of them don't get in to the best director conversation, I don't even know what to do anymore, because there are so many contenders that should be getting into that race. It shouldn't just be the fucking thing of like a token woman gets in. If one even gets in.
If one even gets in, and even if the one that I think we all think might get in, everybody will moan about it until the end of time and say that women shouldn't be in there, and then you'll have to quote something like "women should work harder." Yeah. Anyway, but I'm not going to.
Gerwig is the one that'll probably get in. Just to sort of spoiler alert, she's probably the one that's going to get in. But it should also be Celine Song. It should also be Justine Triet from Anatomy of a Fall. I'm just saying.
Anatomy of a Fall is very, very good. I'm going to watch that. Everyone was talking about that, and I just want to say the thing I've said on numerous podcast things, where it's like a lot of movies that don't make it into the awards just don't have enough juice behind them. Yeah, and they're really good. You can't judge a movie on if it made it to cinemas or if it got any awards things, because getting a distributor is hard. And getting a distributor behind you and a studio behind you, and usually one old rich white guy behind you enough to give you an award is damn near impossible. If you do it and you're femme identifying, God bless you. That is a feat. And if you were still not a white woman, it's, the shooting with diamond is easier.
Shall we move on, Alex, to your number one of the year?
I'm afraid on a list of silly, goofy, happy movies, this one is a little bit sadder, a little So yeah, bittersweet. Bittersweet chocolate, but more like, I think, sweet sour. I think it definitely has sort of that flavor of people who seen parts of their life go by that they wish hadn't. So in this film, we have...
What is the film called, Alex? Not to redirect your brain. You haven't said the title of the film.
My brain is just ready for 2014. I'm so 2014, 2024. Am I having a stroke? Okay, let me start at the beginning. My number one favorite movie of 2023 is The Holdovers. Yeah. It is a very late submission, as in only 2 days ago, as it didn't make it around the cinemas around my way, but it is currently streaming on Peacock. It stars the incredible Paul Giamatti. And you'll know Paul Giamatti from running shit in Billions, Sideways. I even liked him in John Adams, but I know I'm alone.
Big Fat Liar. That's a deep cut one, but you know. If you know, you know.
That's not only a deep cut, but that is an insight into your brain. Did you?
I love that film as a child.
Okay,
I love that film as a child and as an adult. Yeah.
Don't even give me started on Frankie Muniz. Don't do it. Okay, so we have Paul Giamatti, who is lovely. His name is Mr. Hunnam. He is one of the most hated teachers in all of the boarding school at which he teaches. It actually did make it to cinemas around my way. I didn't realize. One cinema with one screening a day. My bad. Dominic Sissa plays Angus. Also very good. Those are your two leads. On paper, and you're thinking, oh, okay. But my favorite character was actually Mary Lamb, played by Divine Joy Randolph.
Yeah. Front runner for Best Supporting Actress at the moment. Just gonna say,
beautiful the way she played that role. And so there was so much. It sort of reminded me of Claire Foy in The Crown, where you have this character where you see everything simmering away underneath, and you just get this little slit of the eyes, and you get like little glimpses into her, and then she has a break, and then you see the dam burst, and then you see this incredible scene. There's the scene in the kitchen that really just blew me away from her.
So just good.
Beautiful top to bottom. It's still so fresh in my mind. Like I said, I only watched it recently. Loved it. I also am a big fan of the director, Alexander Payne, I believe is his name. And so a lot of people didn't like the movie as much as me, but one of his previous movies, The Descendants.
I'm with you, girl. I'm with you on that. That's one of my favorite films to come out that year. It's one of my favorites of his, out of all the films of his I've seen.
Yeah. I love that movie, and there's sort of a sad through line in this movie that reminded me of that movie. And sort of the break in this movie reminded me of that movie, where you kind of eventually see two people coming towards each other. And I loved it. And you spoke about this movie, I think, one part ago?
In brief during the London Film Festival recap.
You got to see it.
Because I did see it at the London Film Festival. And I think it is such a warm, cozy film in a lot of ways. Like, it does have that sort of bittersweet sadness in it. I think it is absolutely a Christmas classic. I think it's criminal that it did not get a wide release before Christmas or around Christmas. It's not coming out in the UK until like the middle of January. It pisses me off so much. It deserved better. It is such a lovely film.
Such a lovely film. And it's a commentary on wealth. It's a commentary on loss. It's a commentary on a lot of things. I'm running out of time. I loved it.
Yeah.
Please watch it. It really connected with me for whatever reason. Probably because I haven't finished the book I keep threatening to write. But I do. Yeah.
And with that, we are indeed out of time. So that was our recap of 2023 in film and television. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to give us a follow, we're at girlsgazedays_pod on Instagram and TikTok. Video versions of this podcast are available on YouTube.
And join us again next time for another sip of queer culture. Sante.
Cheers.
You made it. How did you?
We did it, baby. We did it.